Okay, here we are in Eclipse, and we're going to get some practice using arrays. So I've got a Java project here called Lesson 4. I'm going to create a new class called arrays. So I'm going to right-click on this default package, new class, type in arrays as the name of my class, and I'm going to make sure that the public static void main is checked on so that it gives me something that'll be executed right away. I'm going to put my code right here. And let's say I wanted to have an array of strings. I could say string, call it list, and do square brackets. That means list is going to be an array of strings. Look what I could also do. I could do string, square brackets, list2. Works that way as well. But doesn't matter which way I do it. Let's do the string list, and then I'll say list equals new string, and I'm going to give myself 12 of these. Now let's read in from the console 12 words and put them in here, and then we'll just print them out. So I'm going to have a loop that's going to be asking me at the console what the word is. So I'm going to have to create myself a scanner. I'll call that scanner console equals new scanner system.in, and for int I equals 0, I less than list.length, that's going to have a value of 12, I plus plus, and I'm going to do system.out.println, enter string number, and I'll do I plus 1, because I want to say enter string number 1, and it's going to go in slot 0. And I'll do list square bracket I equals console.next. Get the next line. All right, I've now filled up my my list of strings. I'm going to do another for int I equals 0, I less than list.length, I plus plus, and do system.out.println, and maybe this time I'm going to say square bracket I equals, and I'll put in list square bracket I. Close that loop, and let's just make sure we close our console so that Java will quit complaining to me that I haven't closed it. And let's see what happens when we run this. Save it, press run, enter string number 1. Well, I'm not going to be very creative. I'll type in 1. String number 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm wishing I hadn't used a number as big as 12. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it prints out. Element 0 is 1, element 1 is 2, and so on. Now let's go back and change this. The only thing I'm going to change is this 12, I'm going to change to a 5. Nothing else in the program changes. Change that to a 5, run it, enter string number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It stops asking me after 5, and that's all it's got in there. Okay, now let's use a numeric string or a numeric array instead of this one that has strings. So instead of string list, I'm going to do, let's do int nums, and then say nums equals new int. Let's have 10 of those. And I'm not going to read mine in from the console. Instead, let's say that nums sub I equals I times 2. And we'll just print them out. Instead of list.length, of course, I need nums.length. Instead of list.length here, I need nums.length. Instead of printing out list I, I'll print out nums I. Changed very little here. And see what happens when we print it. Save it, run it, and it tells me that position 0 is 0, position 1 is 2, 2 is 4, 3 is 6, all the way up to 9 equals 18. Okay, let's get a little bit more sophisticated. You remember in one of the videos we were able to find the biggest number and the average number. So let's do that right here. I'm going to do int biggest and give it a number that's smaller than I know any of my numbers are going to be. And go for int I equals 0, I less than nums.length, I plus plus. If nums sub I is bigger than the biggest, then this is my new biggest. So I get biggest equals nums sub I. At the end of this loop, biggest has the biggest value. So now let's give myself a variable that's a double called average, an int called total that's initialized to 0. Go through this loop again. Int I equals 0, I less than nums.length, I plus plus. Total is equal to what it used to equal plus nums sub I. So when I'm done with this loop, total has all of my values added together. So I can say that average equals the double version of total divided by the double version of the length of the array. Okay, now I've printed out all 10 values already. Let's now just print out the biggest and the average value. So I do system.out.println. Biggest value in the list is biggest, and the average value is plus average. Save that, run it, and now what am I going to get down here? I get, prints out the values 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Biggest value is 18. The average value is 9. Okay? Now, I can leave a lot of that the same. Suppose instead of having 2 times the number go into this list, I want a random. Let's show you how to do some random numbers in Java. I am going to create an element, a variable called myRandom that's of type random. There's a class called random. Notice Java is saying, I don't know what this is. But if you hover where the little squiggly red line is, it says, do you want to import it? Java has one of these. Say, yes, we will import it. It just put a statement up here that said import java.utilities.random. Now I have to instantiate it. myRandom equals a new member of the random class. And here, instead of saying nums I equals I times 2, I'm going to say that it equals myRandom dot next int 100. It's going to pick a random number from 0 to 99. Or I could do next int 5000, would go from 0 to 499. I change nothing else. I'll still print them out. I'll still find the biggest. I'll still find the average. All I changed was how I'm going to generate these. So I'm going to save that. I just press Control S to save it, run it. Here's my random numbers, 5, 61, 61. Notice it can get the same number more than once. It says the biggest value was 68, the average was 46.8. I'm going to run it again. No change in the code. Here's my numbers now, completely different numbers. The biggest one is 91. The average is 54.6. So I hope this little video in Eclipse gives you an idea of some things you can do to manipulate arrays, whether those are arrays of strings, arrays of ints, or arrays of anything else. Happy programming.